Welcome back to Midnight Wanderer. Have you ever paused, in a quiet moment, to wonder about the silent, invisible world that exists behind your eyes? There is within you a place of unimaginable complexity, a universe of thought and feeling that is more intricate than the most distant galaxy, yet it's held within a space no larger than your two hands. This is the world we're going to explore tonight, the human brain, the soft, silent architect of your entire reality, and perhaps the greatest remaining mystery on Earth. But this is not a mystery that needs to be solved. It is a wonder to be held, to be gently explored as you settle into a state of deep comfort. There is no need to grasp onto any of these ideas. Think of them as a gentle flowing stream of thought, and you are resting peacefully on its banks, simply noticing the water as it passes by. You have permission now to let go. Allow the weight of your body to feel supported, to release any tension you might be holding. Let your breath find its own natural, easy rhythm, a quiet tide that needs no guidance from you at all. Your only task is to be comfortable. Before our journey begins, I wonder what quiet corner of the world you're settling into tonight. If you feel moved to, perhaps you could share in the comments where you're listening from and what the night sounds like there. And if you find a sense of peace in these explorations, a simple like or subscription helps this quiet channel reach other curious minds who might be searching for a calm space. For now, though, simply rest. Close your eyes and let our journey into the quiet universe within begin. Our journey into this profound mystery begins not with a thought or a feeling, but with a physical object. If you were to hold it in your hands, the human brain would feel surprisingly humble. It weighs only about 3 pounds, roughly the same as a bag of sugar, and its texture is said to be soft and yielding like firm tofu or a thick jelly. It has no moving parts, no gears, no pistons. It is a quiet, unassuming object, bathed in the silent darkness of the skull, and yet within this modest form lies a complexity that rivals the cosmos itself. It is, in every sense of the word, a 3-pound universe. The first hint of this vastness is in its population of stars. Just as our galaxy, the Milky Way, is filled with hundreds of billions of stars, your brain is filled with some 86 billion specialized cells called neurons. These are the principal cells that carry the signals of the mind, the individual points of light in this inner sky. Each one is a living, breathing entity, a microscopic world unto itself. But it is in their connection that the true wonder reveals itself. Each of these 86 billion neurons can form connections with thousands of others, weaving a web of such staggering density that it becomes almost impossible to comprehend. The number of possible connections, or synapses, in a single human brain is estimated to be in the hundreds of trillions, far more than all the stars in our galaxy. It is a network of such richness and intricacy that it makes our most powerful supercomputers look like simple toys. This inner universe has its own unique geography, a landscape of immense surface area cleverly folded into a small space. The brain's outer layer, the cerebral cortex, which is responsible for our highest thoughts, is not a smooth, simple surface. It is a continuous sheet of tissue, about the thickness of a thick blanket, that has been intricately folded and crumpled upon itself. These folds, called gyri, are the winding ridges, like gentle mountain ranges. The valleys between them, called sulci, are the deep fissures and canyons. This folding is a brilliant solution to an engineering problem: how to fit a vast continent-sized map of processing power into the small globe of the skull. If you were to take this cortical sheet and spread it out flat, it would cover the area of a large dinner napkin. By folding itself in this way, the brain maximizes its power, creating a landscape that is both compact and immense, a world of hidden valleys and sunlit peaks where the work of thinking can unfold. This is the physical stage for our journey, this soft, dense and intricately folded universe that you carry with you always. It is from this quiet, biological matter that all the richness of our inner lives Every thought, every memory, every dream will emerge. As we continue to observe this inner universe, one of its most remarkable features is its profound silence. Despite containing a level of electrical activity that would rival a small city, the brain makes no sound. The trillions of signals flashing through its networks, the constant hum of its 86 billion neurons, the ceaseless work of constructing our reality, all of it happens in complete and utter silence. This quiet is a clue to the brain's nature. It is not a mechanical machine of grinding gears, but an electrochemical one, a living web of soft, delicate tissues. And to protect this precious silent world, nature has designed a truly elegant and beautiful life support system. The first layer of this system is, of course, the skull, the hard, bony dome of the cranium. It is a perfect protective vessel, a personal planetarium for the universe within, strong enough to shield the delicate brain from the shocks and bumps of the outside world. But between the hard bone of the skull and the soft tissue of the brain, there are further layers of protection, like silken veils guarding a sacred space. These are the meninges, a 3-layered membrane that completely envelops the brain and spinal cord. The outermost layer is tough and durable. The middle layer is a delicate spiderweb-like structure, and the innermost layer is a thin, gentle membrane that clings to every contour of the brain's folded surface. And within these layers, the brain is not simply resting, it is floating. It is suspended in a clear, colourless liquid called cerebrospinal fluid. This fluid, which is constantly being produced and reabsorbed, acts as a perfect shock absorber. It creates a buoyant environment, a tiny, private sea that allows the 3-pound brain to float, effectively reducing its weight to a mere fraction of an ounce. This buoyancy protects the brain from its own weight and cushions it from injury. This entire system, the hard dome, the silken veils and the buoyant sea, works in perfect silent harmony to create a safe, stable and serene environment, allowing the soft machine to perform its incredible work undisturbed by the physical world outside. This quiet, protected universe is anything but sleepy. It is, in fact, the most energy-hungry organ in the entire body. While the brain accounts for only about 2% of our total body weight, it consumes a staggering 20% of our oxygen and calories. It is like a single, incredibly bright and demanding star in the constellation of our body, requiring a constant and disproportionate supply of fuel to sustain its inner fire. This energy consumption is relentless. Even now, as you are resting, listening peacefully, your brain is hard at work, burning through energy at a tremendous rate. And when you are in the deepest stages of sleep, its energy use barely decreases. The quiet work of dreaming, of repairing cellular damage, and of consolidating the day's memories is an intensely energy-demanding process. This continuous hunger tells us something fundamental about the brain. It is never truly off. It is a tirelessly active system, a constant hum of electrochemical activity. The energy it consumes is used to power the billions of tiny cellular pumps that maintain the delicate electrical charge of each neuron, allowing them to send their whisper-like signals. It fuels the creation of neurotransmitters, the chemical messengers that dance across the synaptic gaps, and it supports the constant quiet work of the glial cells, the brain's dedicated caretakers. This intense, focused, and unceasing burn of energy is the biological price of consciousness. It is the fuel required to maintain this complex universe, to power the silent symphony, and to generate the gentle inner light of awareness that allows you to experience this moment, right here, right now. Looking down upon the geography of this inner universe, its most prominent feature is a great division, a deep canyon that runs from the front to the back, separating the brain into 2 distinct halves, the left and right cerebral hemispheres. For a long time, popular culture has told a very simple story about these 2 worlds. The left hemisphere, we were told, is the logical, analytical and language-loving side, a world of numbers and straight lines. The right hemisphere in this story is the creative, intuitive, and emotional side, a world of music, art, and holistic thought. While there is a grain of truth in this, some functions, like language, are often more dominant in one hemisphere than the other. The reality is far more beautiful and integrated. It is less a story of two competing specialists and more a tale of two intimately connected partners in a seamless dance. These two worlds are not isolated from each other. They're connected by a massive and magnificent structure called the corpus callosum. This is the great bridge of the inner cosmos, a thick bundle of some 200 million nerve fibres, a superhighway of information that allows the two hemispheres to communicate with each other constantly and almost instantaneously. Every thought you have, every perception you form involves a constant flowing conversation across this bridge. The two hemispheres work together on almost every task. When you listen to a story, your left hemisphere may be processing the words and the grammar, while your right hemisphere is interpreting the emotional tone and the rhythm of the speaker's voice. They are two different but complementary ways of seeing the world, and by working together, they create a single, unified, and much richer experience. So it is best to think of the two hemispheres not as a rigid division, but as a beautiful, functional symmetry. Two worlds that mirror each other, constantly sharing their unique perspectives to create one mind. As our initial tour of this quiet universe comes to a close, let us pause and reflect on what we have seen. We have envisioned a 3-pound object, soft and silent, protected by a perfect life support system. We have imagined it as a universe, with a population of 86 billion stars, each one a living neuron. We have seen its immense energy, its constant, quiet work, and we have observed its great symmetrical geography, a tale of two worlds joined by a magnificent bridge. We have in essence described the physical container. But this is where the deepest mystery truly begins, the gentle, awe-inspiring question that lies at the heart of our journey tonight. How does this biological machine, this soft and silent matter, become the source of everything that matters to us? How do the simple, electrochemical whispers travelling through this network become the complex and colourful tapestry of our inner lives? How does a pattern of firing neurons become the feeling of warmth from the sun, the memory of a childhood friend, the sound of a favourite song, or the abstract concept of justice? This is the great leap, the gap in our understanding that is sometimes called the explanatory gap. It is the question of how biology becomes biography, how a physical process gives rise to subjective experience. We do not have the answer. And for our journey tonight, that is a beautiful thing. It allows us to approach the rest of our exploration not with a need for certainty, but with a sense of quiet wonder. It is this gentle question that will hold us now. As we leave the grand scale of the brain as a whole, and zoom our perspective all the way down to the individual stars of this inner sky, the living wires known as neurons. We now journey deeper into the inner cosmos, leaving the continental scale of hemispheres and lobes behind. Our destination is the fundamental building block of this entire universe, the individual citizen of the mind, the neuron. If the brain is a galaxy, then the neuron is its quintessential star. It is the source of the light, the origin of the signal that makes everything else possible. Like a star, it has a central body, a core region called the soma, which contains the cell's nucleus, its genetic blueprint, and the machinery to keep it alive. And from this central body, the neuron extends itself out into the surrounding space, creating a structure of breathtaking beauty and complexity. Sprouting from the soma are intricate tree-like branches, reaching out in all directions. These are the dendrites. Their name comes from the Greek word for tree, and the resemblance is uncanny. These delicate branches are the neuron's great listeners. Their surfaces are covered in thousands of receptors, tiny receiving stations that are constantly listening for messages from other neurons. They gather all the incoming whispers from the surrounding network, collecting information from far and wide. Then, from the other side of the cell body, a different kind of structure emerges. It is a single, long and slender cable that can stretch for incredible distances. This is the axon. The axon is the neuron's transmitter, its voice. It is the pathway along which the neuron sends its own message out into the universe. At its far end, the axon too branches out, forming numerous terminals that will reach out to touch the dendrites of other neurons, though they never quite make contact. This fundamental shape, the branching dendrites for listening, the cell body for processing, and the long axon for speaking, is the basic architecture of communication in the brain. But the true wonder lies not just in their shape, but in their sheer number and variety. There are motor neurons with incredibly long axons that reach from your spine down to your toes, sensory neurons that carry signals from your skin, and a vast and diverse population of interneurons within the brain itself, with an incredible array of beautiful branching shapes, each specialized for a different kind of conversation. To imagine this landscape is to imagine a celestial forest of 86 billion unique and intricate starry trees, their branches and roots intertwined in a network of almost infinite complexity, a silent living web that is ready and waiting for the first gentle spark of communication. Now that we have pictured the beautiful static form of the neuron, we can explore the life that flows through it. The language of the brain, the fundamental unit of its communication, is a gentle spark of electricity. It is called the action potential. To understand it, it is best not to think of a harsh jolt of lightning, but of something far more subtle and elegant, a silent, flowing wave of energy, a whisper of light travelling down a long and delicate pathway. A neuron at rest is like a tiny, living battery. It works tirelessly to maintain a delicate balance of electrically charged particles, or ions, on either side of its outer membrane. It keeps more positive charges on the outside and more negative charges on the inside, creating a small but stable electrical charge, a state of quiet readiness. The dendrites, the neuron's listeners, are constantly receiving chemical messages from other neurons. Some of these messages are excitatory, gently nudging the neuron to become less negative on the inside. Others are inhibitory, encouraging it to stay in its quiet, resting state. The neuron listens to all of these incoming whispers, summing them up in its cell body. If, and only if, the sum of these excitatory whispers reaches a certain critical level, a threshold, then something remarkable happens. It is as if a silent bell has been struck. A series of tiny, gate-like channels at the base of the axon suddenly fly open, allowing the positive ions from the outside to rush into the cell. This creates a rapid, momentary reversal of the electrical charge at that one spot, a tiny, localized spark. This spark then triggers the gates next to it to open, and then the ones next to those, and so on, in a beautiful, self-propagating chain reaction. This wave of electrical change, this action potential, flows down the entire length of the axon, from the cell body to its distant terminals at incredible speed, without ever losing its strength. It is a pure, clean, and unambiguous signal, a single, clear note in the brain's vast symphony. It is the fundamental event, the whisper that carries the news of the mind from one place to another. There is a profound simplicity in this gentle spark of communication. The action potential operates on what is known as the all-or-none principle. This means that there is no such thing as a large action potential or a small one. There is no loud whisper and no quiet one. Once the threshold in the neuron is reached, the action potential will fire with its full, identical strength every single time. If the threshold is not reached, it will not fire at all. It is a binary event, a simple yes or no, a 1 or a 0. It is like flicking a light switch. The light is either on or it is off. There is no in-between. A neuron cannot shout by sending a bigger spark. So how does the brain encode the intensity of a sensation? How does it tell the difference between a gentle touch and a firm pressure, or a dim light and a bright one? The answer lies not in the size of the whisper, but in its rhythm and frequency. The intensity of a stimulus is translated into the rate at which the neurons fire. A gentle touch might cause a sensory neuron to send its whisper at a slow, steady rhythm. One spark, then another, then another. A firmer pressure, however, will cause that same neuron to fire much more rapidly. Spark, 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 spark. The message is the same in its nature. It is still the same all-or-nothing whisper, but its meaning is conveyed by the tempo of its delivery. This is a wonderfully efficient and clear system of communication. It means that the signal is unambiguous and cannot be degraded over the long distances it might have to travel. The complexity of our thoughts and feelings, then, does not arise from a complex signal. It arises from the incredibly intricate patterns of these simple, identical whispers, firing in different rhythms, in different combinations, across billions of neurons all at the same time. It is the pattern, not the spark, that holds the meaning. For a long time in our stories about the brain, the neurons were the only stars of the show. The other cells that filled the space between them were thought to be mere background players. They were called glial cells, from the Greek word for glue, and it was believed that their only job was to hold the important neurons in place, to provide simple, passive structural support. We now know that this could not be further from the truth. The glial cells are the unsung heroes of the inner universe. There are at least as many of them as there are neurons, and they are not passive glue, but active and essential partners in everything the brain does. They are the caretakers, the gardeners, the engineers, and the guardians of the neural world. There are several different types, each with a special job. The astrocytes, or star-shaped cells, are perhaps the most numerous. They provide the neurons with nutrients from the blood, they clean up excess chemical messengers from the synaptic gaps, and they form a crucial part of the blood-brain barrier, a protective lining that carefully controls what substances can enter the brain. Then there are the microglia, which are the brain's private immune system. They act as tiny, mobile sentinels, constantly patrolling the brain for signs of injury or infection, and when they find it, they engulf and digest the cellular debris. Another vital type is the oligodendrocyte. These cells produce a fatty substance called myelin, and they wrap it around the axons of the neurons in a series of segments, like beads on a string. This myelin sheath is a brilliant insulator. It allows the action potential, the electrical whisper, to travel much, much faster, up to 100 times faster, by allowing it to jump from one gap in the myelin to the next. The glial cells, in short, create the perfect environment for the neurons to do their work. They are the quiet, tireless support crew that ensures the stars of the show can shine their brightest. Now, with an understanding of the neuron as our star and the glial cells as the living space between, let us zoom our perspective back out to take in the full, breathtaking beauty of the network they create. Imagine, for a moment, that every one of the 86 billion neurons in your brain is a single tiny point of light, and every time a neuron sends its all-or-nothing whisper, its action potential, that point of light momentarily flashes. Now, imagine the connections, the hundreds of trillions of pathways that link these points of light. We are not looking at a collection of individual stars, but a single, vast and interconnected entity. It is a living web of starlight, a galaxy of thought where every flash of light is a whisper, a single note in a symphony of unimaginable scale. And it is always active. Even now, as you lie here in quiet stillness, this network is alive with shimmering, flowing patterns of light. Some areas may be glowing in a slow, rhythmic pulse, while others are flashing in more rapid, complex sequences. This is the landscape of the mind. A thought is not a thing that exists in a single neuron. A thought, a memory, or a feeling is a unique and intricate pattern of firing across millions of neurons, a specific constellation of starlight that momentarily glows in the inner darkness and then fades, making way for the next. This network is not random. It is highly structured. Neurons that perform similar functions are often grouped together, and they are connected by massive bundles of axons, great highways of communication that link the different continents of the brain. But the network is also not static. As we will discover, it is constantly changing, weaving and unweaving itself in response to our every experience. For now, simply hold this image in your mind: a silent, vast, and living web of starlight, constantly shimmering with the gentle whispers of communication. It is in the spaces between these stars, the tiny gaps where one neuron passes its message to the next, that the true magic of the mind takes place. And it is to these spaces we will journey next. Having envisioned the vast network of starlight, we now journey to the most crucial and mysterious location within it, the space between. Our journey takes us to the point where the axon terminal of one neuron, the sender, comes infinitesimally close to the dendrite of another, the receiver. This microscopic gap, this tiny chasm of empty space, is called the synapse, and it is here, in this space that is less than a millionth of an inch wide, that the entire universe of the mind is built. It may seem strange that the most important place in the brain is a gap, a place of non-connection. One might imagine that a direct physical wire would be a more efficient way to send a signal, but this tiny separation is the secret to the brain's immense power and flexibility. The synapse is not a void. It is a stage. It is a theatre for a beautiful and incredibly subtle chemical dance, a place where the purely electrical whisper of the action potential is transformed into a chemical message and then back into an electrical one. This transformation is what allows for nuance, for learning, for memory. A simple, hardwired connection can only ever be on or off. But this tiny gap, this synaptic cleft, creates a space of possibility. It allows the brain to modulate the signal, to make it stronger or weaker, to change its tone and its meaning, turns a simple network of switches into a vast and dynamic communication system, capable of incredible subtlety and adaptation. All of learning and memory, at its most fundamental level, is the process of strengthening or weakening these individual synaptic connections. To think of the synapse, then, is to think of the generative silence between the notes of a piece of music. It is the space that gives the notes their meaning, their relationship, and their power. It is the quiet, potent, and magical space where one thought ends and the next is born. The performers in this synaptic dance are a beautiful and diverse family of chemicals called neurotransmitters. These are the brain's messengers, the couriers that carry the information across the tiny synaptic gap. There are over 100 different kinds of these messengers, each with a unique shape and a specific message to deliver. To understand how they work, we can use a simple and elegant metaphor: the lock and key. Imagine that the surface of the receiving neuron's dendrite is covered in thousands of tiny specialized locks, which are called receptors. Each lock is designed to fit only one specific shape of key. The neurotransmitters, stored in tiny bubbles or vesicles at the tip of the sending neuron's axon, are the keys. When the action potential, the electrical whisper, arrives at the end of the axon, it doesn't jump across the gap. Instead, it acts as a signal that causes these tiny bubbles to move to the edge of the cell and release their neurotransmitter keys into the synaptic fluid. These keys then float across the microscopic gap. Most of them will drift harmlessly by, but some will find the perfectly shaped locks on the other side. When a key fits into its lock, it momentarily opens a channel or triggers a change in the receiving neuron, delivering its specific message before being quickly released and cleared away. Some of the most familiar names associated with our moods and feelings are members of this family. Dopamine is often described as the key that carries the message of reward, motivation, and pleasure. Serotonin is a key that helps to regulate mood, sleep, and appetite, often associated with a sense of well-being. Glutamate is the great excitatory key, the most common one in the brain, carrying the simple message to go, fire. GABA, on the other hand, is the great inhibitory key, carrying the calming message to stop, be still. The immense complexity of our inner world comes from the interplay of these hundreds of different keys, fitting into their specific locks in countless combinations all across the brain, painting our experiences with a rich and subtle palette of chemical colours. Let us now imagine this synaptic dance in motion. It is a process of incredible speed and precision, a conversation that is as fleeting as it is meaningful. The entire sequence, from the arrival of the electrical whisper at the axon terminal, to the release of the neurotransmitter keys, to their journey across the gap, to their brief binding with the receptor locks, and finally to their removal from the synapse, happens in less than 1,000th of a second. It is a momentary, almost instantaneous event. This speed is what allows for the rapid flow of thought, for our ability to perceive the world as a continuous, seamless experience. But just as important as the speed of the message is the speed of its cleanup. After the neurotransmitter keys have delivered their message, they cannot be allowed to linger in the gap. If they did, they would keep opening the locks, and the signal would never end. So, the synapse has a highly efficient cleanup crew. In some cases, specialised enzymes in the synaptic fluid will find the neurotransmitter keys and break them down. In other cases, there are tiny pumps, called reuptake transporters, on the sending neuron that actively vacuum the keys back up, recycling them to be used in the next conversation. This rapid clearing of the stage is what allows for the next signal to be heard clearly. It ensures that each whisper is a distinct event, a crisp and clean note in the symphony. It is this perfect timing, this delicate balance between a swift release and an equally swift removal, that allows for the incredible complexity of brain function. It is a beautiful, self-regulating dance of chemical communication, a million billion fleeting conversations happening in perfect synchrony, every single moment of our lives. In this vast and complex conversation, not all messages are the same. In fact, all the nuanced communication within the brain can be simplified into two fundamental and opposing forces: excitation and inhibition. These are the two great yin and yang energies of the nervous system, the cosmic push and pull that, by working in constant balance, create all the subtlety of thought and behaviour. An excitatory message is, in its essence, a whisper that says yes. When an excitatory neurotransmitter, like glutamate, binds to its receptor, it gently nudges the receiving neuron closer to its firing threshold. It makes it a little more likely to send its own action potential, to pass the message along. It is a green light, an encouragement to continue the signal. If our brains were only made of excitatory connections, it would be a chaotic and uncontrolled place. Every signal would spread like wildfire, leading to a constant, meaningless storm of neural activity. This is where the second great force comes in: inhibition. An inhibitory message, carried by neurotransmitters like GABA, is a whisper that says no, or perhaps more accurately, be still for a moment. When an inhibitory neurotransmitter binds to its receptor, it makes the receiving neuron more negative, pushing it further away from its firing threshold. It makes it less likely to fire. It is a red light, a gentle and calming touch that tells the neuron to pause. This inhibitory force is not a form of suppression in a negative sense. It is a form of control, of artistry. Inhibition is what allows the brain to sculpt its activity, to create patterns, and to focus its resources. It is the silence between the notes that creates the music. It is the chisel that carves the marble. By precisely balancing these two fundamental forces, the yes of excitation and the no of inhibition, the brain can perform incredibly complex computations, filter out distracting information, and coordinate our movements with grace and precision. It is a constant, beautiful, and absolutely essential dance between go and stop, between sound and silence. So, with these two opposing forces constantly at play, how does an individual neuron make a choice? A single neuron, as we know, can receive messages on its vast dendritic tree from thousands of other neurons at the very same moment. Some of these incoming messages will be excitatory whispers saying yes, while others will be inhibitory whispers saying no. The neuron's task is to listen to this vast chorus of input and make a single, simple decision to fire its own all-or-nothing whisper or to remain silent. It does this through a beautiful and elegant process of summation. The neuron is a tiny democratic listener. It does not pay more attention to one voice over another. It simply adds up all the signals it is receiving. Imagine the cell body of the neuron as a small pool of water. Each excitatory whisper is like a single gentle drop, creating a small ripple that raises the water level slightly. Each inhibitory whisper is like a tiny absorbent sponge, soaking up a drop and lowering the level. The neuron is constantly monitoring the level of the water in this pool. If the combined effect of all the excitatory drops outweighs the effect of all the inhibitory sponges and the water level reaches a critical overflow point, the threshold, then, and only then, will the neuron fire its own signal. This process of integrating thousands of competing inputs into a single output is the fundamental basis of computation in the brain. It is how we make decisions, how we recognize a face, how we choose a word. It is the sum of countless tiny competing whispers, and now, with this understanding, we are ready to zoom our perspective out once more, to listen to the collective hum of these billions of decisions, the great electrical symphony of the mind. Having explored the individual whispers of the neurons and the synaptic dance between them, we now pull our awareness back to listen to the collective voice of the brain. When millions, or even billions, of neurons fire their gentle sparks in a synchronized rhythmic pattern, they generate a collective electrical field that is large enough to be detected by sensors placed on the scalp. This rhythmic, oscillating electrical activity is what we call a brainwave, and if the individual action potential is a single clear note, then a brainwave is the deep resonant chord that arises when all the instruments of an orchestra play together in harmony. It is the hum of the inner universe, the music of the mind itself. This symphony is playing constantly, day and night, from the moment we are born until the moment we die. It is the audible signature of a living, thinking brain. The character of this music, its tempo and its rhythm, changes constantly depending on what we are doing and what state of mind we are in. When we are awake, alert, and focused on a complex problem, the symphony is fast-paced, complex, and high-frequency, a busy and intricate piece of music. When we are relaxed, with our eyes closed and our minds drifting, the music slows down, becoming more regular, more harmonious, a simpler and more peaceful melody. And as we drift into sleep, the symphony becomes slower still, descending into a deep, powerful and slow rolling rhythm, like the sound of a great cosmic ocean. These brainwaves are not just a byproduct of brain activity. Many scientists believe they're a crucial part of the process itself. The shared, rhythmic pulsing may be the brain's way of coordinating its vast and distant regions, of binding different groups of neurons together to work on a common task. It is as if the rhythm of the music is the conductor's beat, allowing all the different sections of the orchestra to play in perfect time, creating a single, cohesive experience of reality. To listen to the brain's electrical symphony, then, is to listen to the deepest and most fundamental language of the mind. The great symphony of the mind is not a single monotonous tune. It is a rich and varied composition with several distinct movements, each with its own unique tempo and character. Scientists using letters from the Greek alphabet have categorized these different rhythms based on their frequency, the number of times they oscillate per second. The slowest and most powerful of these rhythms are the delta waves. These are the deep, slow-rolling waves of dreamless sleep, a rhythm of profound rest and restoration. They are the bass notes of the orchestra, providing a deep and resonant foundation. A little faster are the theta waves. This is the rhythm of drowsiness, of light sleep, and also, intriguingly, of deep meditation, creativity, and daydreaming. It is a state of mind where the boundaries between thoughts become more fluid, a gentle and dreamlike melody. Next up the scale are the alpha waves. This is the beautiful, harmonious rhythm of relaxed wakefulness. It is the state you might be in right now, resting quietly with your eyes closed, not actively thinking about anything in particular. Alpha is the brain's peaceful, idling rhythm, the calm and steady hum of a mind at ease. Faster still are the beta waves. This is the music of our normal waking consciousness when our minds are alert, focused, and engaged with the outside world. It is a faster, more complex and less synchronized rhythm, the busy, chattering sound of the active mind. And finally, at the highest frequency, are the gamma waves. These are the fastest and most subtle of the brainwaves, and they are associated with moments of intense focus, high-level information processing, and the binding of our perceptions into a single, whole experience. Each of these rhythms, from the deep bass of delta to the shimmering piccolo of gamma, represents a different state of our inner universe, a different movement in the continuous and ever-changing symphony of the mind. Let us linger for a moment with one of these rhythms, the one that is perhaps most relevant to our journey tonight, the gentle, peaceful rhythm of alpha. You can think of alpha waves as the brain's screensaver. They tend to become dominant when you close your eyes and let your mind wander without focusing on any single thought. It is the default baseline rhythm of a calm and conscious mind. When your brain is not busy processing visual information from the outside world, or actively engaged in a difficult mental task, it settles into this beautiful, coherent and synchronous hum. It is a sign that the vast cortex of your brain is in a state of readiness, peacefully idling, like a beautifully tuned engine waiting for its driver. This state is often associated with feelings of calm, of effortless alertness, and of quiet contemplation. It is the bridge between the conscious, active world and the deeper subconscious realms of thought and sleep. Meditators, in their practice of quieting the mind, often show a profound increase in alpha wave activity. It represents a state of being where the noise of our usual mental chatter has subsided, allowing for a deeper and clearer awareness to emerge. So as you rest here, if you notice your mind beginning to quiet down, feeling a sense of peaceful detachment from your thoughts, you may very well be experiencing the dominance of this calm, harmonious rhythm. It is your brain's own natural lullaby, a gentle electrical hum that signals it is safe, it is calm, and it is ready to drift even deeper towards the restorative rhythms of sleep. This idea of a rhythmic electrical symphony may help us gently approach one of the deepest mysteries of the brain, the binding problem. Think about your experience of something as simple as a red ball. When you look at it, your brain processes its different features in different specialized areas. One part of your visual cortex is busy processing the color red. Another part is processing the round shape. If you touch it, your sensory cortex is processing its smooth texture. If you bounce it, your auditory cortex is processing the sound it makes. The mystery is this: how does your brain, with all these separate processes happening in different places, create your single, unified and seamless experience of a red ball? Where and how is all this information bound together into a single object? Some scientists believe the answer might not be found in a single place, but in a shared rhythm. The theory, known as binding by synchrony, suggests that all the different groups of neurons that are processing the various features of the red ball begin to fire their signals in sync with each other at the same high-frequency rhythm likely in the gamma wave range. It is as if all the different sections of the orchestra that are playing the red part, the round part, and the smooth part all start playing to the exact same, fast-paced beat. This shared rhythm is the brain's way of signalling that all of these separate features belong to the same object. The binding in this view is not a place, but a moment of shared time, a fleeting rhythmic consensus among a vast population of neurons. It is a beautiful and elegant idea, suggesting that our coherent reality is held together, moment by moment, by the synchronized hum of a great electrical symphony. As our exploration of the brain's symphony comes to a close, we arrive at the music that is most central to our purpose tonight, the music of sleep. As you begin the gentle descent into slumber, the symphony of your brain undergoes a profound and beautiful transformation. The fast, complex rhythms of your waking beta waves begin to slow down. The calm, coherent hum of alpha waves becomes more prominent as you relax with your eyes closed. Then, as you drift into the first, light stages of sleep, the music shifts to the slower, dreamier tempo of theta waves. This is the gateway to the subconscious, a state of deep relaxation. And then, as you descend further into the deepest and most restorative stages of sleep, the orchestra begins to play its most powerful and profound movement. This is the world of delta waves. These are the slowest and highest amplitude brainwaves, a deep, slow-rolling and perfectly synchronized rhythm that is the very signature of profound, dreamless sleep. This is not a state of inactivity. The delta wave symphony is the sound of the brain performing its most essential nightly maintenance. It is during this time that the brain is physically cleaning itself, that the connections between neurons are being recalibrated, and that the body is undergoing its deepest repairs. This deep, resonant music is the sound of healing, of restoration, of the brain recharging itself for the day to come. And so, as you continue to listen, you can perhaps imagine the music of your own mind beginning to slow. You can give it permission to move from the faster rhythms of the day through the calm hum of alpha and down into the deep, peaceful and restorative symphony of sleep. With this understanding of the brain's deep music, we are now ready to begin a gentle tour of the instrument itself, the physical geography of thought. Our gentle tour of the inner universe begins at its most ancient and fundamental location. This is the brainstem, the structure that sits at the very base of the brain, connecting the great thinking hemispheres to the spinal cord below. If the brain is a great sprawling tree, then the brainstem is its deep and sturdy trunk, the foundational structure from which everything else has grown. This is the oldest part of our brain, evolutionarily speaking. It is a part of the brain that we share with all vertebrates, from fish to reptiles to birds. It is sometimes called the reptilian brain, because it is responsible for the most basic and essential functions of life, the things that a lizard and a human both need to survive. The brainstem is the quiet, tireless, and completely unconscious caretaker of our body's most vital machinery. It works in the deep background, ensuring that our heart continues to beat at a steady rhythm, that our lungs continue to draw breath in and out, and that we maintain our body temperature. It manages our swallowing, our blood pressure, and our alertness. You do not have to think about any of these things. The brainstem takes care of it all, silently and perfectly, allowing the higher parts of your brain to be free to wander, to dream, and to think. It is the brain's pilot light, the part that is always on, maintaining the fundamental spark of life. As you lie here, feeling the gentle, automatic rhythm of your own breathing and the steady beat of your own heart, you are feeling the silent, faithful work of this ancient and essential part of your brain. It is the calm, reliable foundation upon which the entire complex structure of your mind is built. Tucked in behind the brainstem, at the lower back of the skull, is another remarkable and ancient structure. It is called the cerebellum, a Latin name that means little brain, and though it is much smaller than the great cerebral cortex above it, its appearance is strikingly similar, with a tightly folded surface and two distinct hemispheres. In fact, while it makes up only about 10% of the brain's total volume, the cerebellum contains over half of all the brain's neurons. This densely packed little brain has a very special and elegant role. It is the seat of balance, coordination, and skillful movement. Every time you perform a smooth, practiced, and seemingly effortless physical action, whether it is walking across a room, signing your name, or simply reaching out to touch something, it is your cerebellum that is orchestrating the symphony of muscle contractions that make it possible. It does not initiate the movement. That is the job of the higher motor cortex. Instead, the cerebellum acts as a graceful, intuitive dancer. It receives the rough plan for a movement from the cortex, and then, using a constant stream of sensory feedback from your body, it fine-tunes and adjusts the plan in real time, ensuring that the movement is smooth, coordinated, and precise. It is the brain's master of muscle memory. When you first learn a new skill, like riding a bicycle, you have to think about every little movement. But once you have practiced it, the cerebellum takes over, and the skill becomes automatic, fluid, and unconscious. It is our silent partner in every graceful interaction we have with the physical world. Now, our journey takes us from the ancient structures that manage our physical bodies deep into the very centre of the brain to a collection of structures collectively known as the limbic system. This is the emotional core of our inner universe, the place where the raw, unfiltered feelings that colour our entire experience of life are born. This is not a single, neat location, but a group of interconnected regions that work together to generate our emotions, to motivate our behaviours, and to begin the crucial process of forming long-term memories. At the heart of this system is a small, almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. The amygdala is the brain's emotional watchtower, constantly scanning our sensory input for anything that might be important, relevant, or potentially dangerous. It is the part of the brain that gives a jolt of fear when you hear a sudden loud noise, or a spark of pleasure when you see a friendly face. It is the source of our most primal gut-level feelings. Nestled next to the amygdala is a beautiful seahorse-shaped structure called the hippocampus. The hippocampus is the scribe of our lives, the part of the brain that is absolutely essential for taking our short-term, fleeting experiences and converting them into lasting long-term memories. It is the bridge between the present moment and our personal history. The limbic system, then, is the place where raw sensation is first imbued with meaning and value. It is what makes a particular sight or sound not just a piece of data, but something that is beautiful, or scary, or joyful. It is the source of the deep nonverbal wisdom of our feelings, the ancient emotional compass that guides us through the world and helps us remember the journey. Sitting just above the brainstem, right in the very centre of our inner world, is a structure called the thalamus. You can think of the thalamus as the brain's grand central station, a magnificent and incredibly busy hub through which almost all information from the outside world must pass. Every sight, every sound, every touch, every taste, all of this sensory information streams into the thalamus first. The only sense that has a private direct line to the cortex is the ancient sense of smell. The thalamus acts as the brain's master relay station, a wise and efficient dispatcher of experience. It takes this torrent of incoming sensory data and sorts it, organises it, and then relays it to the appropriate specialised region of the great cerebral cortex above for more detailed processing. The visual information from your eyes is sent to the visual cortex at the back of the brain. The auditory information from your ears is sent to the auditory cortex at the sides. It is a crucial gatekeeper of our perception. During the day, it keeps the gates open, allowing us to be aware of the world. But as we fall asleep, the thalamus quiets down, gently closing these gates, effectively disconnecting our cortex from the outside world and allowing our brain to focus on the internal world of sleep and dreams. It is the quiet, unassuming, and absolutely essential hub that organises the flow of reality itself. Our gentle tour of the brain's geography now brings us to its vast and magnificent outer layer, the cerebral cortex. This is the great, wrinkled and folded landscape we first observed. the part of the brain that has expanded so dramatically in human evolution. It is the thinking cap of the mind, the seat of our most complex and sophisticated mental abilities, our language, our abstract thought, our long-term planning, and our conscious awareness. The cortex is divided into 4 main lobes, each a great continent with its own specialized functions. At the very back is the occipital lobe, the continent dedicated entirely to vision, where the raw signals from our eyes are transformed into the rich, 3-dimensional world we see. At the sides are the temporal lobes, which are responsible for hearing, understanding language, and are also deeply involved in memory. Above them are the parietal lobes, which create our sense of touch, temperature, and our spatial awareness, our inner map of the world around us. And finally, at the very front, is the largest continent of all, the frontal lobe. This is the brain's great conductor, its chief executive. The frontal lobe, and especially its most forward part, the prefrontal cortex, is responsible for what we call our executive functions. Our ability to make decisions, to set goals, to control our impulses, and to imagine the future. It is the part of the brain that allows us to think about our own thinking. This great folded map of the cortex is where the raw data processed by the deeper, older parts of the brain is woven into the complex, meaningful, and uniquely human tapestry of our thoughts and perceptions. And as we will now discover, this map is not fixed. It is a living, changing world. For a very long time, the prevailing view in neuroscience was that the adult brain was a static and unchanging thing. It was thought that after a certain point in childhood, the brain's wiring was essentially fixed, its map permanently drawn. Any damage was thought to be permanent, and the capacity for learning was believed to diminish with age. We now know that this old idea, while intuitive, is profoundly wrong. The modern understanding of the brain is built upon a beautiful and incredibly hopeful concept known as neuroplasticity. This simply means that the brain is plastic, or malleable. It is not a fixed and rigid piece of hardware, but a dynamic, living and ever-changing landscape. It is a map that is constantly and actively being redrawn by our every thought, our every action, and our every experience. This ability to change and reorganize itself is not a rare or special event. It is the brain's normal and continuous state of being. Every time you learn a new fact, practice a new skill, or form a new memory, you are physically changing the structure of your brain. You're subtly altering the connections between your neurons, strengthening some pathways and weakening others. This is a quiet, microscopic process, but its cumulative effect is profound. It means that who you are, your personality, your habits, your skills, is not set in stone. It is the living, breathing result of how your brain has shaped itself over the course of your life. This idea of a fluid, ever-evolving brain is one of the most important discoveries in the history of neuroscience. It reframes our understanding of learning, of healing, and of human potential. It tells us that our brain is not a static object to be passively observed, but a dynamic partner in our own growth, a living map that we ourselves are helping to draw every single day. To understand how this ever-changing map redraws itself, we can turn to a simple and elegant phrase that has become a cornerstone of neuroscience. Neurons that fire together, wire together. This idea, first proposed by a psychologist named Donald Hebb in 1949, describes the fundamental mechanism of learning and memory at the cellular level. It is a beautiful principle of connection and reinforcement. Imagine 2 neurons that are connected by a weak synapse. The first neuron fires its signal, but the connection is not strong enough to make the second neuron fire. Now, imagine that something causes both of these neurons to fire at the very same time, perhaps because they are both responding to the same sensory experience. When this happens repeatedly, a change begins to occur at the synapse that connects them. The connection becomes stronger, more efficient. The receiving neuron becomes more sensitive to the sending neuron's whispers. The 2 neurons, through the simple act of firing in synchrony, have strengthened their relationship. They have wired together. You can think of this process like creating a path in a forest. The first time you walk between 2 points, there is no path. You have to push through the undergrowth, and the journey is slow and difficult. But if you walk that same route again and again, a trail begins to form. The grass becomes trampled down, the branches are pushed aside. With each journey, the path becomes clearer, wider, and easier to travel. The synaptic pathways in our brain work in exactly the same way. The more a particular neural circuit is used, the stronger and faster it becomes. This is how habits are formed, both good and bad. It is how we learn to play a musical instrument, with the movements becoming smoother and more automatic with practice. And it is how memories are etched into the very fabric of our brain, by the strengthening of the specific pathways that were active during the original experience. It is a simple, elegant, and powerful rule, a relationship built on shared activity. The process of redrawing our neural map is not just about strengthening connections and creating new pathways. It is also, just as importantly, about letting go of the connections that are no longer needed. This process is known as synaptic pruning, and it is a crucial part of how the brain learns and becomes more efficient. To understand it, we can use the gentle metaphor of a gardener tending to a rose bush. A wise gardener knows that to get the most beautiful and vibrant blooms, you cannot just let the bush grow wild. You must carefully and selectively prune it. You snip away the weaker, less productive branches, and you remove the smaller, less promising buds. This might seem like a destructive act, but it is not. By removing the weaker parts, the gardener allows the plant to direct its precious energy and resources to the strongest and most promising branches, resulting in a healthier and more beautiful plant. Our brain, especially during childhood and adolescence, is a masterful gardener of its own connections. When we are very young, our brain creates a massive overabundance of synaptic connections, an incredibly dense and tangled jungle of potential pathways. Then, as we learn and experience the world, the pruning process begins. The connections that are used frequently, the pathways for our native language, for recognizing the faces of our family, for the skills we practice, are strengthened and preserved. The connections that are rarely or never used, however, are gradually and quietly snipped away. This is not a loss, but a refinement. It is the brain's way of making itself more efficient, of clearing away the noise so that the important signals can be heard more clearly. It is a process of sculpting, of turning a rough block of marble into a finished and finely detailed statue. This delicate dance between strengthening the useful and pruning the unnecessary is what allows the brain to adapt so perfectly to its unique environment. This idea of a physically changing brain might seem abstract, but a famous and beautiful study of London taxi drivers made it wonderfully tangible. To become a licensed black cab driver in London, a person must pass an incredibly difficult test called the Knowledge. It requires them to memorise the entire layout of London's sprawling and complex street network, some 25,000 streets, along with thousands of landmarks and points of interest. It is a monumental feat of spatial memory that typically takes years of dedicated study to master. Neuroscientists saw this as a perfect natural experiment. They decided to take brain scans of the trainee taxi drivers before they began their training, and then again after they had passed the Knowledge. They wanted to see if this intense period of spatial learning would leave a physical mark on their brains. The results were remarkable. The scientists found that in the brains of the drivers who had successfully passed the test, a specific part of the brain had grown physically larger. That part was the posterior hippocampus, the seahorse-shaped structure that we know is crucial for spatial memory. The longer someone had been a taxi driver, the larger this part of their hippocampus was. This study was a stunning demonstration of neuroplasticity in action. It showed that the adult human brain was not fixed, but could physically change its structure in response to a specific and sustained mental effort. The taxi drivers, simply by the act of learning, had redrawn their own brain maps in a way that was visible on a scan. It was as if, by pouring the sea of knowledge of London streets into their minds, they had physically enlarged the vessel that held it. It is a powerful and hopeful testament to the brain's incredible capacity for change. As we conclude this chapter on the ever-changing map, we are left with a feeling of quiet and profound hope. The knowledge that our brain is not a static, predetermined machine, but a fluid and adaptable partner, changes everything. It means that we are never truly finished, never stuck with the brain we have today. We are all, in a very real sense, works in progress. This principle of neuroplasticity is the foundation for all learning. It is the reason why we can acquire new skills, learn new languages, and absorb new information at any age. It is the reason why a musician's brain looks different from a mathematician's brain. Their years of dedicated practice have physically sculpted their neural pathways in different ways. Neuroplasticity is also the foundation for healing. It explains how the brain can often rewire itself to recover from injury or a stroke, with healthy areas taking over the functions of the damaged ones. And it is the foundation for personal change. It tells us that our habits of thought, our emotional responses and our ways of seeing the world are not fixed traits, but learned pathways in the brain. And because they are learned, they can be unlearned, and new, healthier pathways can be consciously and deliberately cultivated. The brain that can change itself is a brain that holds the constant promise of renewal. It is a source of quiet optimism, a testament to the resilience and adaptability that lies at the very core of our being, and it is this changing, adaptable mind that gives rise to the greatest mystery of all, the subjective feeling of being you, the ghost in the machine we call consciousness. Our journey now leads us from the physical landscape of the brain, its cells, its chemistry, its electrical rhythms, to the most profound and intimate mystery it holds. We arrive at the mystery of consciousness. This is not the mystery of what the brain does, but of what it feels like from the inside. Consciousness is the simple, yet inexplicable fact that we are not just complex information processing machines. We are aware. We have subjective, first-person experiences. It is the feeling of what it is like to be you. It is the redness of a sunset, the warmth of a gentle breeze, the taste of a sweet fruit, the feeling of sadness, or the memory of a distant joy. It is the entire movie that is constantly playing in your mind, a movie for an audience of one. Scientists and philosophers sometimes refer to these subjective qualities of experience as qualia. You can think of consciousness as the inner light that illuminates these experiences, the silent, invisible theatre in which the play of your life unfolds. Without this inner light, all the processing in the brain would be happening in the dark. The information about the sunset would still be there, but there would be no one home to see it, to feel its beauty. We know that consciousness is intimately linked to the brain. We know that different states of brain activity correspond to different states of consciousness, from deep sleep to focused alertness. But how and why the coordinated firing of billions of neurons should generate this inner light, this subjective feeling of being, is the deepest question in all of science and perhaps in all of philosophy. It is the mystery of how the water of the brain is transformed into the wine of conscious experience. To gently navigate this profound mystery, it can be helpful to make a distinction, first clearly articulated by the philosopher David Chalmers, between the easy problems and the hard problem of consciousness. Now, the easy problems are not easy at all. They are, in fact, the incredibly complex questions that occupy most neuroscientists in their daily work. These are questions about the mechanics of the brain. How does the brain process sensory information? How does it control our behaviour? How do we learn and form memories? How does our brain distinguish between being awake and being asleep? These are questions about function, about the objective, third-person mechanisms of the brain. We can study these problems by looking at which parts of the brain become active during a task, by understanding the pathways of neural circuits, and by observing the effects of brain injury. We are making tremendous progress on these easy problems. We are, in essence, figuring out the wiring diagram of the machine. But then there is the hard problem. The hard problem is the question of why. Why does all of this information processing, all of this complex wiring, feel like anything at all from the inside? Why isn't it all just happening in the dark, without any subjective experience attached? This is the leap from objective function to subjective feeling. To use a metaphor, the easy problems are like taking apart a television and figuring out how the circuits in the screen work to produce an image. The hard problem is asking why there is a story on the screen at all, why the flickering lights create a feeling of joy or sadness in the viewer. There is nothing in the equations of physics or the principles of biology that seems to demand that a complex information processing system should have an inner life. And yet, we do. This is the heart of the mystery, the beautiful unanswered question that separates the mechanics of the mind from the magic of awareness. In our search for the source of this inner light, a natural question arises: where in the brain does it live? Is there a special place, a central command centre, where all the threads of our perception come together and consciousness happens? For a long time, many thinkers imagined such a place. The philosopher René Descartes, famously, though incorrectly, proposed the pineal gland as the principal seat of the soul, the place where the non-physical mind connected with the physical brain. Modern neuroscience, however, has led us to a very different and perhaps more beautiful conclusion. After decades of searching, we have found no single spot in the brain that acts as the centre of consciousness. There is no one place where you reside. There is no single point of a light that illuminates the inner theatre. Instead, consciousness seems to be a distributed and emergent property of the entire system. It is not located in any one place, but arises from the complex, dynamic, and massively interconnected activity of the whole brain. It is like asking, where is the wetness in a water molecule? A single molecule of H2O is not wet. Wetness is a property that emerges only when you have a large collection of these molecules interacting with each other in a particular way. Similarly, a single neuron is not conscious. Consciousness seems to be a quality that emerges from the vast coordinated symphony of billions of neurons, all whispering to each other in a rich and integrated pattern. It is not a thing, but a process. It is not a noun, but a verb. It is the holistic hum of the entire network, the music that arises from the playing of the whole orchestra. The you that is experiencing this moment is not a tiny pilot sitting in the control room of your brain. The you is the entire, dynamic, and ever-changing pattern of the symphony itself. While we do not have a solution to the hard problem, there are several gentle and fascinating theories that attempt to frame the question in a new light. One of the most prominent of these is called Integrated Information Theory, or IIT. It is a complex idea, but its core principle is simple and beautiful. The theory proposes that consciousness is not something that is exclusive to biological brains, but is a fundamental property of any system that has a certain kind of complexity. Specifically, it suggests that consciousness corresponds to a system's capacity for integrated information. This can be broken down into two ideas. First, the system must contain a very large amount of information, meaning it must have a huge number of possible states. Your brain, with its 86 billion neurons that can be either firing or not, has a number of possible states that is almost infinite. But just having a lot of information is not enough. A digital camera's sensor has millions of pixels, each containing information, but we don't think of the camera as being conscious. The second crucial ingredient is that this information must be highly integrated. This means that the different parts of the system must be deeply interconnected, and that the state of the whole system cannot be understood by looking at its parts in isolation. You cannot break the brain apart and still have the mind. According to IIT, the richness of a conscious experience is identical to the amount of integrated information a system contains. A system with a high degree of integrated information, like the human brain, will have a rich and complex conscious experience. A simpler system like that of a thermostat or perhaps even a simple worm, would have a very, very small amount. It is a gentle and expansive idea, suggesting that consciousness might not be an all-or-nothing phenomenon, but a graded quality that exists in many different forms all throughout the universe. And so, as we come to the end of our gentle exploration of consciousness, we are left not with a neat and tidy answer, but with a profound and peaceful sense of wonder. The hard problem remains. We do not know how the physical processes of the brain give rise to the subjective richness of our inner lives, and perhaps this is a mystery that we are not meant to solve, at least not in the way we solve a puzzle. Perhaps the nature of consciousness is such that it cannot be fully grasped from the outside, just as you cannot truly know the experience of another person. It is, by its very definition, a private first-person phenomenon. But this lack of a final answer is not a failure. It is an invitation to humility, to awe, and to a deeper appreciation for the gift of our own awareness. To be conscious is to be given a front-row seat to the universe. It is to be able to experience beauty, to feel love, to contemplate infinity. Some have even suggested that our conscious brains are the universe's way of becoming aware of itself, that we are the cosmos looking out at itself in wonder. Whatever its ultimate nature, the simple, undeniable fact of your own awareness right here, right now, is perhaps the most miraculous thing that is happening anywhere on Earth. It is the beautiful, unexplainable, and unknowable gift of your 3-pound universe. And it is this conscious self that is responsible for the next great wonder of the mind, the weaving of our own personal history through the magic of memory. From the profound mystery of the present moment, we now turn to the way our brain weaves these moments together to create the continuous tapestry of our lives. We arrive at the wonder of memory. If consciousness is the single, vibrant thread of our immediate experience, then memory is the great loom that weaves these threads together, creating the rich and patterned fabric of our identity. It is the mechanism that connects our past to our present and allows us to project ourselves into the future. Without memory, we would be trapped in an eternal, meaningless present, each moment a fresh and isolated experience with no connection to what came before. It is memory that gives our lives a sense of narrative, of continuity, of being a person with a history. Our brain weaves this tapestry using different kinds of thread. The first is what we call short-term or working memory. This is the brain's temporary notepad, its mental workspace. It is the ability to hold a small amount of information, a phone number you just heard the beginning of this sentence, in your active awareness for a few seconds. It is a fragile and limited space, but it is essential for navigating the flow of conversation and thought. But the truly vast and beautiful part of the tapestry is our long-term memory. This is the great library of the self, the seemingly infinite storehouse of our past experiences, our knowledge, our skills, and our personal stories. This library contains different kinds of books. There are books of facts, our semantic memory, which hold our knowledge about the world, that Paris is the capital of France, that water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. There are books of skills, our procedural memory, which hold our knowledge of how to do things, like how to ride a bicycle or play an instrument, things that we often do without conscious thought. And then there are the most precious books of all, our episodic memory. These are our personal stories, the remembered scenes from our own lives, rich with sensory detail and emotional colour. It is this vast, intricate and deeply personal library that makes us who we are. In this great library of the self there is a master librarian, a dedicated scribe whose job it is to manage the flow of new information. We have met this structure before. It is the beautiful seahorse-shaped hippocampus, nestled deep within the temporal lobes. The hippocampus does not seem to be where our long-term memories are ultimately stored. The vast library itself is distributed across the great cortex. Instead, the hippocampus acts as a crucial intermediary, a kind of temporary cataloguing system. It is the librarian that takes the new, incoming books, our daily experiences, and decides which ones are important enough to be added to the permanent collection. When you have a new experience, the hippocampus is highly active. It binds together all the different elements of that experience, the sights, the sounds, the emotions, the context, into a single, coherent package. It holds this package in a fragile temporary form. Then, for a period of hours, days, and even weeks, the hippocampus will quietly replay this pattern of neural activity, especially during sleep. It is as if the librarian is practicing how to shelve the book, rehearsing its location in the Great Library. This process of replay and rehearsal gradually strengthens the connections between the various cortical areas that were involved in the original experience. Over time, these cortical connections become strong enough to hold the memory on their own, without the help of the hippocampus. The memory has been consolidated. The book has found its permanent place on the shelves of the cortex. The hippocampus is then free to begin cataloguing the next day's experiences. It is the gentle, patient, and absolutely essential scribe of our lives, ensuring that our most meaningful moments are not lost to the winds of time. So what is a memory, physically? What is this book in the library actually made of? For over a century, scientists have been searching for the engram, the physical trace or biological basis of a memory in the brain. The modern view is that an engram is not a single thing, but a specific and intricate pattern of physical and chemical changes across a network of neurons. It is a unique constellation of strengthened synapses, a neural circuit that has been sculpted by experience. When you form a new memory, a specific group of neurons that were active during that experience become linked together. Their synaptic connections are strengthened through the process we explored earlier. Neurons that fire together, wire together. The memory, then, is the enduring silent potential of this specific network to be reactivated. Recalling the memory is the act of reawakening this pattern, of causing this specific constellation of neurons to fire again in a sequence that is similar to the original experience. This physical trace is incredibly fragile at first. A new memory is like a faint pencil sketch, easily smudged or erased. It needs time for the synaptic changes to become more permanent, a process that involves the synthesis of new proteins and the growth of new connections. This is why a distracting event or an injury can often wipe out our memory for the few moments just before it happened. The engram had not yet had time to solidify, but as the memory is recalled and reconsolidated over time, the sketch is gradually inked in, becoming a more stable and resilient part of the brain's fabric. A memory, then, is not an ethereal, ghostly thing. It is a living, physical structure woven into the very architecture of your brain. While we often think of our memories as being like faithful video recordings of the past, carefully stored in the library of the self, the reality is far more fluid and creative. Our memory is, in fact, an unreliable narrator. It is not a system for replaying the past, but for actively and constantly reconstructing it. Every single time you recall a memory, you're not simply pulling a dusty book off the shelf and reading it. You are, in that very moment, rebuilding the engram. You're reawakening the neural pathway, and in doing so, you're making it temporarily fragile and open to change. The memory becomes malleable, and it can be subtly updated with new information, new emotions, and your current perspective. It is as if every time you take the book off the shelf, you write new notes in the margins, and perhaps even slightly rewrite a few of the sentences before putting it back. This is why our memories can change and drift over time. Details can be lost, new details can be inadvertently added, and the emotional tone of a memory can shift dramatically. Two people can have a completely different memory of the same shared event, because each has reconstructed it through the filter of their own unique brain and subsequent experiences. This is not a flaw in the system. Many scientists believe that this malleability is actually the purpose of memory. Its function is not to be a perfect archive of the past, but to be a dynamic and useful guide for the future. By allowing us to update our memories with new information, Our brain ensures that our internal library is not a static museum, but a living, breathing guide that is constantly being refined to help us navigate the present and anticipate the future. Our memory is not a factual historian. It is a personal storyteller. In our story about the library of the self, we must also make room for one of its most important and overlooked processes, the act of forgetting. We tend to think of forgetting as a failure, a frustrating sign of our own imperfection. But from the brain's perspective, forgetting is not a bug. It is a feature. It is a healthy, adaptive, and absolutely essential process that allows our memory system to work efficiently. Imagine if you remembered every single detail of every single moment of your entire life with perfect clarity. Imagine remembering what you had for breakfast every day for the last 10 years, the face of every stranger you passed on the street, every word of every conversation. Your mind would be an overwhelming and chaotic jungle of trivial information, and you would be unable to distinguish the meaningful from the meaningless. Forgetting is the brain's quiet, gentle, and continuous process of pruning this jungle. It is the sea of forgetfulness that gently washes over the landscape of our past, eroding the trivial details and the unimportant memories. This allows the most important and emotionally significant memories, the ones that have been frequently revisited and reinforced, to stand out like beautiful, polished stones on the shore. It is a process of curation, of tidying up the library to make it more useful. It clears away the clutter so we can find the books that truly matter. So, as you rest tonight, you can think of the gentle process of falling asleep as a form of this healthy forgetting, a letting go of the trivial details of the day. This quiet clearing of the mind is what prepares the stage for the brain's most creative act of remembering and forgetting, the nightly weaving of our dreams. Our journey now brings us to the very state that you are gently approaching, the mysterious and restorative world of sleep. The process of falling asleep is not like flicking a switch from on to off. It is a slow, graceful and guided descent through several different stages of consciousness, each with its own unique brainwave signature. As you lie here and your body becomes still, the symphony of your brain begins to change. The fast, busy beta waves of your active day give way to the calm, synchronous hum of alpha waves as you close your eyes and your mind begins to quiet. This is the gentle gateway to sleep. The first true stage of sleep is a brief transitional phase. Your breathing slows, your muscles relax further, and you may experience gentle, drifting thoughts and images. The music of your brain shifts into the slower tempo of theta waves. You're on the shore of the great ocean of sleep. In stage 2, you drift a little deeper. Your heart rate and body temperature drop. The theta wave symphony is occasionally punctuated by sudden, brief bursts of rapid brain activity called sleep spindles. Scientists believe these spindles may be involved in the process of memory consolidation, the librarian beginning its nightly work of cataloguing the day's experiences, and then you descend into the deepest and most profound stage of sleep. This is slow wave sleep. Your brain is now dominated by the powerful, low-frequency rhythm of delta waves. This is the stage of deepest rest, of physical repair, and of profound unconsciousness. Your brain is now almost completely disconnected from the outside world, allowing it to focus on its most important internal work. You will cycle through these stages throughout the night, moving from the shallower waters to the deep, and then back up again, in a predictable and restorative rhythm, a gentle, nightly tide that washes over the shores of the mind. While your conscious mind is resting in this deep, quiet state, your brain is anything but inactive. In fact, it is performing one of its most vital and beautiful functions, a process of deep cleaning and restoration. In recent years, scientists have discovered a remarkable system in the brain that works primarily while we sleep. It is called the glymphatic system. You can think of it as the brain's silent gardener, or its nightly cleaning crew. During our waking hours, the brain's intense metabolic activity produces a great deal of waste products, byproducts of all that thinking and processing. One of these is a sticky protein called beta amyloid, which, if allowed to accumulate, is associated with neurodegenerative diseases. During the day, these waste products are crowded out by the brain's busy cells. But something remarkable happens when we enter deep, slow-wave sleep. The brain cells themselves actually shrink slightly by up to 60%. This opens up the spaces between the cells, allowing the clear cerebrospinal fluid, the buoyant sea we met earlier, to flow through the brain's tissues much more freely. This increased flow acts like a power wash for the brain. It flushes through the newly opened channels, collecting the metabolic waste products of the day and carrying them away to be disposed of by the body's lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is 10 times more active during sleep than it is during wakefulness. This discovery has given us a beautiful, concrete reason why sleep feels so restorative. It is not just a passive rest, but an active and essential process of cleansing. It is your brain's way of tidying its own house, of weeding the garden, of washing away the dust of the day's thoughts. So as you drift deeper into sleep, you can imagine this gentle, cleansing tide of fluid flowing silently through your inner universe, leaving your mind clean, refreshed, and ready for a new day. After cycling through the deep, quiet stages of sleep, a new and very different act begins in the nightly play. This is the stage known as REM sleep, which stands for Rapid Eye Movement. It is a state of profound and beautiful paradox. If you were to look at a person in REM sleep, their body would be almost completely still, with the major voluntary muscles essentially paralyzed. This is a protective mechanism called muscle atonia, which prevents us from physically acting out our dreams. But beneath their closed eyelids, their eyes would be darting back and forth rapidly, as if they were watching a movie. And if you were to look at their brain activity, you would see something even more surprising. The slow, powerful delta waves of deep sleep would be gone, replaced by fast, low-amplitude brain waves that look almost identical to the brain waves of a person who is wide awake, active, and alert. This is the great paradox of REM sleep. The body is deeply asleep, but the brain is wide awake. This is the stage of sleep where our most vivid, narrative, and emotionally intense dreams occur. The brain's visual cortex is highly active. The motor cortex, which controls movement, is also active, planning and imagining movements that the body cannot carry out. And the emotional centres of the limbic system are buzzing with activity. It is as if the brain has lit up its own private inner theatre and is putting on a spectacular and surreal performance just for you. So why do we enter this strange, paradoxical state of dreaming? What is the purpose of these nightly stories? While we don't have a single, definitive answer, one of the most powerful theories is that dreams play a crucial role in memory consolidation. The dream world is the loom, where the brain takes the threads of the previous day's experiences and creatively weaves them into the larger tapestry of our long-term memory. During REM sleep, the hippocampus, our master librarian, is in constant active conversation with the cerebral cortex. It is thought that the strange, often illogical narratives of our dreams are the subjective experience of this process. The dream is like a creative sorting room. It takes the new memories from the day, and instead of just filing them away neatly, it explores them. It connects them to older, related memories. It looks for patterns and associations. It asks, what is this new experience like? Where does it fit in the library of my life? This might be why our dreams are often a strange and beautiful collage of recent events and very old memories. The Dreamweaver is pulling threads from all over the library and seeing how they might fit together. This process of creative associative exploration is believed to help us not just store our memories, but to understand them, to integrate them into our knowledge of the world, and to gain insight. The dream is the brain's way of finding the deeper meaning in the story of our day of transforming simple information into lasting wisdom. Another beautiful and complementary theory about the purpose of dreaming is that it acts as a form of nightly emotional therapy. Our dreams are often filled with emotion, sometimes intensely so. But the chemistry of the dreaming brain is subtly different from that of the waking brain. During REM sleep, the levels of certain stress-related neurochemicals are significantly reduced. This has led to the theory that dreaming is a safe and protected space where the brain can reprocess emotionally charged memories from the day, but with the sharp, painful edges of the emotion softened. It is as if the dream weaver is taking a difficult or stressful memory and gently re-examining it in a calmer, more neutral light. This process can help to strip the emotional charge away from the memory itself, allowing us to learn from the experience without being overwhelmed by the feeling. You can think of REM sleep as the brain's emotional thermostat. It takes the emotional heat of the day and helps to cool it down, to regulate it, and to integrate it in a healthy way. This is why, after a good night's sleep, a problem that seemed overwhelming the day before can often feel more manageable in the morning. The dream weaver has been at work, silently soothing the emotional landscape of the mind and providing a fresh perspective. As we conclude our gentle exploration of the dream world, let us bring our focus back to you and the journey you're on right now. The descent into sleep, the quiet cleaning of the mind, and the creative weaving of dreams are not just abstract scientific concepts. They are the healthy, beautiful, and profoundly mysterious processes that your own brain is preparing to embark upon. As you continue to rest, you can give your mind full and gentle permission to let go of the waking world and to embrace its own nightly journey. You can trust in the ancient wisdom of your brain to do its restorative work. You can welcome the prospect of your own unique dream world, not as something to be understood or controlled, but as a mysterious and healing gift. Your dreams are a conversation that your brain is having with itself. They are a sign of a healthy, active and creative mind, doing its essential work of mending, sorting and making sense of your world. So let go of the day, let go of the need to understand, and allow yourself to drift into that private inner theatre, where the dream weaver is waiting to begin its gentle, nightly work. From this world of dreams, we will awaken to explore the source of its emotional colours, the unseen navigator of our waking lives. As we emerge from the mysterious world of dreams, we return to our waking lives and to the powerful unseen forces that guide our every moment. We arrive now in the realm of emotions. For a long time, in our quest to understand the mind, emotions were often seen as a primitive and disruptive force, the irrational ghost in the logical machine. We spoke of reason and emotion as if they were two warring factions, with reason being the superior and more evolved of the two. But the modern understanding of the brain has revealed a much deeper and more beautiful truth. Emotions are not the enemy of reason. They are its essential foundation. They are an incredibly sophisticated and ancient form of intelligence, a non-verbal wisdom that has been shaped by millions of years of evolution to help us navigate the world. You can think of emotions as the colours of the mind. A purely logical, emotionless brain would experience the world in shades of grey. It would process information, but it would have no way of knowing what that information means, or why any of it matters. Emotions are what paint our experiences with value, with significance. They are what make a sunset beautiful, a loss painful, a success joyful. They are the brain's way of instantly telling us what is good for us, what is bad for us, and what we should pay attention to. They are a form of information, as real and as valid as the data from our senses. They are the unseen navigator, the quiet internal compass that is constantly guiding our decisions, shaping our perceptions and motivating our actions, long before our conscious, logical mind even has a chance to weigh in. At the very heart of this emotional navigation system lies a structure we have met before, the small, almond-shaped amygdala. We can think of the amygdala as the brain's ancient and vigilant watchtower. It sits at a crucial crossroads of information, receiving a constant stream of input from all of our senses, and its primary job is to scan this incoming data for one simple thing: relevance. It is constantly and unconsciously asking the question, does this matter to me? Is this important for my survival or my well-being? It is particularly sensitive to novelty and to any potential signs of threat. When you are walking through a forest and a twig snaps nearby, it is your amygdala that, in a fraction of a second, triggers a jolt of alertness long before your conscious mind has had time to identify the sound. This is the amygdala's rapid, low-road pathway. It sends an immediate, urgent signal to the rest of your brain and body, preparing you to fight, flee, or freeze. This system is designed for speed, not accuracy. It is better to be startled by the wind 100 times than to miss the sound of a predator once. But the amygdala is not just a fear detector. It is also activated by positive, relevant stimuli. The sight of a loved one's face, the smell of your favourite food, the sound of beautiful music. It is the brain's salience detector, its way of highlighting what is important in the endless stream of sensory information, ensuring that we pay attention to what truly matters. Our emotions are not just abstract events that happen in our heads. They are profoundly physical experiences, a deep and intimate conversation between the brain and the body. When the amygdala in its watchtower sounds an alarm, it doesn't just send a message to the thinking parts of the brain. It sends an immediate signal down to the brainstem and out into the body. This is what triggers the classic physical signs of an emotional response. Your heart begins to beat faster, pumping more blood to your muscles. Your breathing becomes quicker, taking in more oxygen. Your pupils dilate, letting in more light. Your digestion slows down, conserving energy. This is the body preparing itself for action. Every emotion has its own unique physical signature, its own echo in the body. The feeling of joy can feel like a warmth and an openness in the chest. The feeling of sadness can feel like a physical weight, a slowness in the limbs. The feeling of anxiety can feel like a knot in the stomach. Some scientists believe that the conscious feeling of an emotion is, in large part, the brain's perception of these bodily changes. In this view, we do not run because we are afraid. We feel afraid because we perceive our own body preparing to run. The emotion is the brain listening to the body's wisdom. This deep connection reminds us that the mind is not a separate entity, but is embodied, woven into the very fabric of our physical being. While the amygdala provides the rapid, gut-level emotional reaction, this is only the beginning of the story. Our brains have a second, more thoughtful pathway for processing emotion. This is the high road, and it involves the most recently evolved part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex. You can think of the prefrontal cortex as the brain's wise and calm judge. While the amygdala is sounding its immediate alarm based on a quick and dirty assessment of the situation, the sensory information is also taking a slightly longer, more detailed route to the prefrontal cortex. The judge receives this more complete information, and its job is to put the amygdala's alarm into context. The prefrontal cortex can access our memories, our knowledge of the world, and our long-term goals. It can ask more nuanced questions. Was that snapping twig just the sound of a harmless squirrel? Does this situation really require such a strong reaction? The prefrontal cortex can then send a calming signal back down to the amygdala, effectively saying, "Thank you for the warning, but it's all right. Stand down." This is the process of emotional regulation. It is the balance between our initial, primal reaction and our more considered, thoughtful response. A healthy emotional life depends on the smooth and constant conversation between the impulsive watchtower of the amygdala and the wise judge of the prefrontal cortex. It is this partnership that allows us to feel our emotions deeply, while also navigating the world with wisdom and grace. As we bring these threads together, we can see our emotional system in its true light. It is not a chaotic or irrational force. but a highly sophisticated internal compass, a beautiful and ancient navigation system. Our emotions are the needle of this compass, constantly pointing us toward what our brain believes will lead to our well-being, and away from what it believes will lead to harm. Our gut feelings, our intuitive hunches, are often the result of this unseen navigator processing a vast amount of information from our past experiences and our present environment, long before our conscious mind has had a chance to connect the dots. This emotional compass is what guides our most important decisions. It is what draws us into relationships with people who feel safe and kind. It is what motivates us to pursue goals that feel meaningful and fulfilling. It is what tells us when a situation just doesn't feel right. Learning to listen to the quiet wisdom of this internal compass, while also engaging the thoughtful context of our conscious mind, is one of the great arts of living. Our emotions are not a distraction from our intelligence. They are the very heart of it. They are the quiet, guiding force that gives our journey its direction, its meaning, and its profound, colourful depth. We now arrive at what may be the most mind-bending and beautiful mystery of all. We've explored how the brain processes information, how it feels, and how it remembers. But we must now gently confront a profound truth. You have never, not once in your entire life, experienced the outside world directly. Every sight, every sound, every sensation you have ever known has been an intricate construction, a beautiful and convincing simulation created for you by the silent artist in your skull. To understand this, we can use a simple metaphor. Imagine your brain as a brilliant artist, living its entire life locked inside a completely dark and silent room, the bony vault of your skull. This artist has no windows, no direct access to the outside world. Its only connection to what is happening outside is through a series of telegraph cables, your sensory nerves. These cables do not deliver pictures or sounds or smells. They deliver only one thing: patterns of simple electrical whispers, the action potentials we met earlier. The signals from your eyes are just patterns of whispers. The signals from your ears are just patterns of whispers. The artist's job is to take these abstract, colourless and silent streams of data and, from them, to paint a rich, vibrant and three-dimensional masterpiece. That masterpiece is your reality. The vibrant colour of a flower is not a property of the flower itself. It is a quality created by your brain in response to a specific frequency of light. The beautiful sound of music is not out there in the air. It is the brain's interpretation of vibrating air molecules. Your entire seamless and immersive world of experience is a magnificent painting, created in real time by this silent, isolated artist. We are not passive receivers of reality. We are the active and creative architects of it. Building on this idea of the silent artist, some neuroscientists have taken it a step further, describing our perception of the world as a controlled hallucination. This may sound like a strange or even alarming idea, but it is a profoundly beautiful one. The traditional view of perception was that it is a bottom-up process. We thought the brain passively receives sensory data from the outside world and then gradually builds up a picture of reality from that data, like assembling a jigsaw puzzle. The new view suggests that the process works mostly in the opposite direction. It is a top-down process. Your brain, based on all of its past experiences and memories, is constantly making predictions, or best guesses, about what is out there in the world. It is, in essence, hallucinating your reality. It is generating its own world from the inside out. The sensory information that comes in from the outside world is not the primary ingredient of the painting. Instead, it serves as a form of error correction. The brain uses the sparse data from the senses to check its predictions, to see if its hallucination matches the incoming signals. If there is a mismatch, a prediction error, the brain will subtly update its internal model to create a better, more accurate hallucination. So, What you experience as reality is not the outside world itself, but your brain's best continuously updated guess about the outside world. It is a controlled hallucination, reined in and anchored to reality by the gentle tug of your senses. We can see this silent artist, this controlled hallucinator, at work in the simple and fascinating phenomenon of the eye's blind spot. On the retina at the back of each of your eyes, there is a small spot where the optic nerve, the great cable that carries visual information to the brain, passes through. At this one spot, there are no light-sensitive photoreceptor cells. It is quite literally a blind spot in your field of vision, and yet you have never seen it. You do not walk around with two black holes in your vision. Why? Because your brain, the master artist, simply fills it in. It takes a guess about what should be there based on the surrounding colours and patterns, and it seamlessly paints it into your perception. If you're looking at a blue wall, your brain paints the blind spot blue. If you're looking at a patterned wallpaper, your brain continues the pattern right across the gap. You are at every moment experiencing a world that is partially a construction, a fabrication designed to give you a smooth and continuous experience. This is not a deception. It is a beautiful and helpful feature of the system. It demonstrates in a simple and undeniable way that what you see is not a perfect photograph of the world, but a creative and useful model painted for you by the silent artist in your mind. The brain's creative scaffolding of reality is not limited to space. It also constructs our experience of time. We tend to think of the present moment as an instantaneous, razor-thin point in time, but our brains cannot actually operate that quickly. The signals from our different senses travel to the brain at different speeds. The signal from your ears reaches the brain much faster than the signal from your eyes. If your brain presented these signals to you as soon as they arrived, your experience of the world would be a chaotic and disjointed mess. A clap of thunder would be heard long before you saw the flash of lightning. To solve this problem, the brain performs a remarkable trick. It waits. It collects all the sensory information that arrives within a small window of time, about 1/10 of a second, and it bundles it all together. It then presents this entire bundle to your conscious awareness as a single, unified moment. So, the now that you're experiencing is not the real, instantaneous now. It is always, by its very nature, a moment that has just passed. Your conscious perception of reality is always living slightly in the past. This is what creates the smooth, flowing river of time that we experience, where sights and sounds are perfectly synchronized. It is another beautiful construction, another part of the controlled hallucination, a gentle illusion that allows us to experience the world as a coherent and meaningful story. The realization that our entire reality is a beautiful and intricate construction of the brain does not need to be a source of unease or doubt. It can, instead, be a source of profound awe and appreciation. To know that the world you experience is not a given, but a gift, a masterpiece painted for you, moment by moment by the silent artist in your mind, is to see it with new eyes. It means that every colour, every sound, every texture is a credit to the incredible creative power of your own brain. The beauty of the sunset is not just in the sky, it is in the neural symphony that interprets the light. The comfort of a gentle touch is not just in the skin, it is in the brain that gives that signal its meaning. This understanding can also foster a deep sense of humility. It reminds us that our personal painting of the world is not the only one. Every other conscious being is living within their own unique brain-generated reality, their own beautiful and valid masterpiece. The brain's construction of reality is not a bug, but its most glorious feature. It is what transforms the chaotic, meaningless buzz of raw sensory data into a stable, beautiful, and deeply meaningful world. And it is this ability to create a world that allows us to imagine the inner worlds of others, to connect our painting with theirs, and to weave ourselves into a social tapestry. Our journey into the inner universe has, until now, been a largely solitary one. we have explored the brain as the creator of a single individual reality. But we are not solitary creatures. The human brain is not just a thinking machine, it is first and foremost a social machine. One of the most compelling ideas about our own evolution is the social brain hypothesis. This theory suggests that the primary reason our brains grew so large and complex was not to solve abstract problems or to make better tools, but to navigate the incredibly complex challenges and opportunities of living in large cooperative social groups. In our ancestral environment, our survival and our ability to reproduce depended almost entirely on our capacity to understand, cooperate with, predict, and influence the behaviour of others. We needed to be able to tell who was a friend and who was a foe, who was trustworthy and who was deceptive, who was the best partner to hunt with or to raise a child with. We needed to understand complex social hierarchies, to build alliances, and to learn from the skills of others. This required a whole new level of cognitive horsepower. It required a brain that could not only model the physical world, but could also model the minds of other people. This pressure to become expert mind readers, the theory goes, is what drove the explosive growth of our cerebral cortex. Our greatest intelligence, then, is not individual but collective. It is an intelligence that is built for we, not for I. Our brain is not an isolated computer. It is a terminal that is designed, from its very foundations, to be connected to a network of other brains. In the late 20th century, a group of scientists studying the brains of monkeys made a remarkable and accidental discovery that opened a new window into our social nature. They found a special class of neurons that had a very peculiar property. These neurons would become active when the monkey performed a specific action, like reaching for a peanut. But, fascinatingly, these same neurons would also become active when the monkey simply watched another monkey, or even a human researcher perform that very same action. The neuron was mirroring the action of the other being in the monkey's own brain. These cells were named mirror neurons. Later research has shown that humans have a rich and complex mirror neuron system as well. You can think of these neurons as the mirror in the mind. They are a neural bridge that blurs the line between self and other. They allow us to understand the actions of others, not through a process of logical deduction, but through direct internal simulation. When you see someone smile, your mirror neurons for smiling become active, giving you a faint internal echo of that feeling of joy. When you see someone trip and fall, your mirror neurons for that action fire, and you may physically wince in sympathy. This system is believed to be the fundamental neurological basis for imitation, for learning by watching, and for our deep intuitive understanding of what other people are doing, and perhaps even what they are feeling. It is a beautiful, biological mechanism for shared experience. Building upon this foundation of shared experience created by our mirror neurons, we can begin to understand one of our most cherished and mysterious capacities, the capacity for empathy. Empathy is the ability to feel what another person is feeling, to step out of our own inner world and for a moment to inhabit the emotional world of another. It is more than just sympathy, which is feeling sorry for someone. Empathy is feeling with someone. Our social brain seems to be exquisitely designed to make this possible. When we see a look of sadness on a friend's face, our brain doesn't just process the visual information of their expression. Our mirror systems, combined with our emotional centres like the insula, create a resonant pattern in our own brain that simulates that state of sadness. We get a faint, internal echo of their feeling. We are, in a very real neurological sense, building a gentle bridge into their mind. This ability is the glue that holds our social world together. It is what allows us to comfort a crying child, to share in a friend's joy, and to feel a sense of connection with the characters in a story. It is a profoundly powerful and beautiful capacity, a testament to the brain's deep and fundamental need to connect, to understand and to care. It is the quiet neurological basis of compassion itself. Our social intelligence goes even deeper than mirroring actions and sharing emotions. Our brains have a remarkable and sophisticated ability that psychologists call theory of mind. This is the simple, yet profound, understanding that other people have minds of their own. It is the recognition that the inner world of another person, their beliefs, their desires, their intentions, their perspectives, is different from our own. A very young child has not yet developed this ability. They assume that everyone knows what they know and wants what they want. But as we grow, a specific network of brain regions, including parts of our prefrontal cortex, matures, allowing us to perform the quiet, imaginative act of picturing another person's unique inner theatre. This is the ability that allows us to understand that just because we know a secret doesn't mean our friend knows it. It is what allows us to understand that someone might do something for reasons that are entirely their own, based on their own beliefs, even if those beliefs are mistaken. Theory of mind is the foundation for all complex social interaction. It allows us to teach, to cooperate, to deceive, and to tell stories. It is our brain's built-in simulator for other minds, a powerful tool that allows us to navigate the intricate and endlessly fascinating landscape of our social world, not as solitary beings, but as members of a community of minds. Given that our brains are so fundamentally and beautifully wired for connection, it helps us to understand one of the most painful of human experiences, the feeling of loneliness. The paradox of our time is that we live in the most connected world in human history, and yet, many of us feel more isolated than ever before. The pain of loneliness is not just a psychological feeling, it is a biological reality. When we feel socially isolated, our brain perceives it as a threat, in the same way it would perceive a physical danger. The same brain regions that are activated by physical pain are also activated by the pain of social rejection. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes perfect sense. For our ancestors, being ostracized from the group was essentially a death sentence. Our brains have evolved to treat social connection as a fundamental need, as vital as food and water. This is why a lack of meaningful social connection can have such a profound negative impact on our physical and mental health, and it is why acts of kindness, of connection, of feeling seen and understood can feel so deeply and powerfully good. They are satisfying a deep and ancient hunger in our brains. We're not designed to be alone. We're designed to be part of a larger supportive tapestry, to have our story woven together with the stories of others. Our social brain is a constant, quiet reminder that we belong to each other. Our long and quiet journey through the inner universe now brings us to its final and most expansive vista. We have journeyed from the physical matter of the brain to the emergence of consciousness, and now we gently expand our perspective to a cosmic scale. There is a beautiful and humbling idea, voiced by many scientists and thinkers, most famously by the astronomer Carl Sagan, that offers a profound context for our own existence. The idea is this: we are the universe's way of becoming aware of itself. Consider the long, unbroken story of the cosmos, from the Big Bang, through the formation of galaxies and stars, to the birth of our own planet. The matter that makes up your brain, the carbon, the nitrogen, the oxygen, was forged in the heart of ancient, long-dead stars. This stardust, over billions of years, coalesced to form our world, and through the patient, creative process of evolution, it organized itself into the incredibly complex and beautiful structure that is the human brain. And this brain, this small collection of organized stardust, has now developed the capacity to look back out at the universe, to wonder about the stars, to ponder the laws of physics, and to ask the very questions we've been exploring tonight. In this view, our consciousness is not something that is separate from the universe. It is a property of the universe. We are not just observers of the cosmos. We are the cosmos, made conscious. Our thoughts, our feelings of wonder, our search for meaning, these are not just human experiences. They are cosmic experiences happening through us. To look up at the night sky is, in a very real sense, for the universe to look at itself. This idea reframes our existence from something small and isolated to something vast, interconnected, and profoundly meaningful. We are the eyes through which the universe sees its own beauty, the mind through which it understands its own mystery. As we stand at this final vantage point, looking back over the landscape of our journey, we can feel a deep sense of gratitude for all that we have learned. We have made incredible progress in understanding the mechanics of the brain. We have mapped its continents, we have learned the language of its neurons, we have decoded its electrical symphonies, and we have begun to understand the elegant principles of its constant flowing change. The amount of knowledge we've gained, especially in the last few decades, is truly staggering. And yet, for every discovery we make, for every question we answer, new and deeper questions seem to emerge. We have learned much, but the great central mysteries remain. We still do not have a scientific explanation for the hard problem of consciousness. We do not fully understand how memory is stored and retrieved. The world of dreams is still shrouded in mystery. The brain, for all our efforts, still holds its deepest secrets close. This is not a cause for frustration. It is instead a beautiful and humbling truth. It means that the age of discovery is not over. It has barely begun. The brain is and will likely remain for a very long time the final frontier of human exploration. It is a vast inner ocean, and we have only just begun to dip our toes in its waters. To know that there will always be more to discover, more to wonder about, is to be guaranteed a future filled with awe. It is the promise that this greatest of mysteries will continue to inspire our curiosity and our humility for generations to come. Now let us bring our focus away from these grand cosmic ideas and back to the most intimate and immediate place of all, the quiet space of your own awareness. For a moment, just rest. And as you rest, simply notice the effortless flow of your own mind. You do not have to create your thoughts. They simply appear. You do not have to construct your feelings. They simply arise and pass away. You do not have to orchestrate your memories. They emerge, unbidden, from the depths. There is within you a quiet, effortless, and ever-present observer, the silent witness to this constant, flowing stream of mental life. This is your own personal, ongoing mystery. You are right now a living example of everything we've been exploring. Within you is the great electrical symphony, the synaptic dance, the loom of memory, the silent artist painting your reality. You do not have to understand it for it to be happening. You only have to be it. To be aware of your own awareness, to feel the gentle, mysterious hum of your own mind, is to be in direct contact with this final frontier. It is to appreciate, on the most personal level, the profound and peaceful wonder of your own being. It is the simple, quiet, and miraculous fact of your own inner light. As we rest in this state of quiet awareness, let us make one final, beautiful connection, a bridge between the inner universe and the outer one. Neuroscientists and cosmologists have both pointed out a startling and beautiful visual resonance between the largest and smallest structures we know of. If you look at a computer simulation of the cosmic web, the large-scale structure of the universe, you see a vast, intricate and filamentary network. You see great clusters of galaxies connected by long, glowing threads of matter, surrounding vast, empty voids. It is a structure of incredible complexity and beauty. Now, if you look at a microscopic image of the neural networks in the brain, you see a startlingly similar pattern. You see the cell bodies of the neurons, the clusters connected by the long, branching threads of their axons and dendrites, surrounding the empty spaces between. The pattern is so similar that it can be difficult to tell the two images apart. This may, of course, be a simple coincidence, a reflection of the fact that nature often uses the same efficient patterns to solve similar problems of network connectivity. But perhaps it is something more. Perhaps it is a gentle hint from the universe, a whisper that the deep organizing principles that shape the cosmos are echoed in the deep organizing principles that shape our own minds. It is a beautiful, final metaphor for our journey, a bridge of pattern, a quiet resonance between the starlight in the sky and the starlight in our skulls. And so, our journey into the quiet universe within comes to its final, peaceful close. We have wandered through its vast geography. We have listened to its subtle music, and we have stood in awe before its deepest questions. We are left not with a set of final answers, but with a profound appreciation for the enduring mystery itself. It is this very mystery that is the brain's greatest gift to us. The fact that we cannot fully predict or explain our own minds is what makes our inner lives so rich, so spontaneous, and so precious. It is the source of our creativity, our capacity for surprise, and our freedom to change and to grow. The brain's mystery is not a problem that needs to be solved. It is a wonder to be lived. It is the constant, quiet invitation to be curious about our own selves, to be patient with our own complexities, and to be deeply grateful for the improbable and beautiful gift of a conscious mind. The greatest mystery on earth is not in some distant, unexplored land. It is right here. It is you. And may you always cherish its quiet and peaceful wonder. As our exploration of the mind concludes, we are left with the gentle hum of this inner universe. We have seen it as a landscape, a symphony, and a storyteller, the silent, tireless architect of our world. Now, feel the quiet, self-organizing power within your own mind as you prepare for sleep. Just as the brain weaves dreams from the threads of the day, your sleep is a gentle process of reweaving your own sense of self, creating calm and coherence from the complexity of your thoughts. There is nothing left to explore, nothing left to understand. You have full permission to let go of this journey now, and to allow your own beautiful, mysterious mind to guide you into a state of deep and restorative peace. May your rest be as profound as the silence between the stars. Thank you for wandering with me tonight at Midnight Wanderer. If you wish to explore again on another evening, perhaps we can journey from the universe within you to the vast silent world of the deep ocean. Until then, sleep peacefully.